Hey everyone, good evening. Who do we have here? And let me know that the sound is on point. Just go into the chat feed, give me a message, let me know you're ready. Once again, have your notebooks ready, blindfolds. Hey guys, good to have you here. Okay, so just a quick little bit of housekeeping before we get into it. Hey, good, thank you for that. So, just a few little things. One, just go over this again. And now I know some of you know this, but I'm also going to... How's this? Can you hear me now? How's that? Better? Can't see or hear me. Let's try again. Okay, yep, good. All right, so it's all good on this end. All right, let's see if it works itself out. So I'm just going to quickly go over some things here. So one is I'm just going to quickly show you the library here. You probably know about this, but I'm also talking to the people that are tuning in for the replay and people in the future that are going to see this who don't know already. So on the Energetic Arts website, we've got webinars, you've got library. If you go to library, you're going to see the past workshops, the past webinars, training sessions that we've done. And you're going to notice here you've got an AM and a PM. Now, these are evergreen, so you can watch these as many times you like, and when you download them or you get access to them, you'll get into them straight away. But what this means is there is 2 sessions, because I do 2 sessions in the day on the same topic. And they're slightly different depending on who turns up. Now, the other thing, this is just new, is that because I know some people can't get to the live event and they're tuning into the replay, we're adding in a Sunday session, and here are the different times for LA, London, Berlin. And this is just going to be an open session. We're going to work with whatever comes up, whatever I tune into on the day, or whatever questions pop up. So I strongly urge you guys to get onto that. Open sessions are always really cool. They're a little bit different because there's no real set format. You're not actually sure what's going to happen. So I like this because it puts me in the flow and it puts everyone else in the flow. And it's hard for the conscious mind to judge whether it's going to be the kind of topic you're interested in or not. So for me, when we're learning this stuff, to me, it's important to learn everything and anything that comes up. You just never know when it's going to come in handy, especially when you get into those unknown spaces, and you can get challenged with, dealing with, well, basically things you're not prepared for. So the more tools you have in your belt, the better it is. It's the phrase is forewarned is forearmed, or something like that. In other words, it's better to have and not need than to need and not have. So the other thing I'm going to be doing is talking to people who aren't necessarily in the live event now, or at least not here in the way that we think about it. So, give you an example. There's a lot of when I was younger in my journey, and I was doing a lot of study. Obviously, couldn't afford a lot of workshops and events and things like that, and especially tools that I really wanted to have. So I would have to find them online, or I'd have to rely on people sending me links to stuff, and what happened was I was lucky enough to receive entire courses from certain people, especially people that had bought a whole program and then never used it, or never had, never decided it wasn't really what they were interested in after all. And so this is usually people who got caught up in the hype of something, and they bought the whole kit and then went home and it sat on the shelf forever. And you get into a conversation, if they find out you're interested in this, more passionate than they are, and so they just give it to you. And so I ended up doing lots of courses remotely in my own time, through the screen basically. And there's advantages and disadvantages to this. So one is that you're on your own, doing it on your own, and so there's not a lot of feedback, and you don't know how far you're progressing or anything like that. And then the other side is you're on your own, so you're not getting distracted, and you're not getting buying into expectations, and buying into rules, unwritten rules and ways of doing things based on the social conditioning and the culture of the group. And so when people aren't really telling you what to do or how to do it, and you're sort of figuring it out, it gives you this unique perspective that no one else has, even though you're studying the same stuff. So for those people that are going to be tuning in like a week from now, a month, a year, 10 years down the track, I'm going to be talking to you as well. And so today's topic is hyperreality and simulations. And if we look up, let's just get on the screen here. And if we look up, just bear with me a moment. If we just go onto Google and look up hyper, we can see here it says hyperactive or unusually energetic, and also over, beyond, above normal. So this is what we're going to be delving into, and this is what we're going to be delving into. And so through the tests that I've done, the training that I've done in the last year, specifically because it was measured through brain scans and heart math and all that sort of stuff, what we've learned is that with the standard deviation bell curve, if 95% are in the center and you've got 1, 2, and 3 standard deviations outside of normal, above and below, then through these types of practices, meditation practices, changing your perspective, your frames of reality, and allowing that energy to come through and embody you, then it doesn't really take much for you to get outside of what's the norm and get into the area of supernatural. I think it only takes maybe, beyond 3 standard deviations outside of normal, you're classed as supernatural. So it doesn't really take much to get yourself outside of that box, although when you're in it, it feels like that's all there is, okay? So what I'm going to be doing tonight, is I'm going to be loosening up that model of what the frame of your reality is. And in the meditation, practice exercises, we're going to be stepping out and starting to play with those new spaces. And so things that I'm going to start to challenge you on, and I don't mean challenge you like, put you under the pump, but just show you an edge, give you a frame to look at and to move beyond, is things like gravity, things like time, things like space, dimensions, and physics, basically. Because when we're moving from a third dimensional space into a fifth dimensional space, the rules change. And one of the quotes that I really love, that was in one of my favorite films called Revolver, which was a Guy Ritchie film, and it was the 2005 version in the reality that I saw it in, not in the re-released version, because it's edited differently and it has a whole different energy signature to it. But if you want the link, I'll show you where to find it. It's kind of a bit hard to find if you don't know where to look for it. But it says, one of the characters says, when you change the rules of what controls you, you change the rules of what you can control. And so it's really important to understand what limits of the mind, what rules we're working with, and then to see if we can move outside them. Just like Morpheus said to Neo in the Matrix, some rules can be bent and others can be broken. So we want to know what the limitations are and if they're fixed or not, and that way we can start to work with them and maximize them, or we can start to just move through them altogether. Just like a locked door might seem impenetrable, but if you know how to pick the lock, then you can access whatever's behind that door. So when we're moving into this fifth dimension space, you've got to remember that you're in a mind now that is not bound by space-time. Okay, you move into the realm of time-space. And we've done some training on this, some of us, through other researchers' work. And what I got out of it was that this third dimensional time-space reality, it's a linear, sequential reality where you have to move from a past to a present to a future, and there's a sequence of events before you can obtain your destination. That when you move into this fifth dimensional space of time-space, it explodes out into this fractal frame reality, where instead of just one dimension, you have one dimension of time, you have multi-dimensions of time and branches of time. And there's many illustrations of this. Steins Gate, which is an animated series, is really good at illustrating these multiple timeline realities. And through placing our awareness on these different potentials of time, space realities, we can slip our awareness from one to the other, and then we can begin to embody the feelings and the energy of that time-space reality, and we can start to slip either directly into them or towards them. And so what I mean by that is we've got all these multi-dimensional time-space reality dimensions around us that are seemingly invisible. And when we focus our awareness on it, we start to navigate towards them. And then when we lock in that energetic signature, then the rest of reality starts to bend to that will, basically. But first we have to be we have to be able to perceive them, or at least know that they're there. So sending our awareness out into the field and scanning for these dimensions is one of the practices that we need to be skilled at. Because once we can discover them, then we can start to tune into them. When we start to tune into them, then we can access them. When we can access them, we can own it. Okay. Makes sense so far, everyone? So when we're talking about hyper realities, where it really helps for us to come from a perspective where everything that we perceive as being real and solid is actually just a construct. It's a code, it's a belief, it's a perception, it's a map of the world that we have. And we've got to remember, and this is an old NLP term, is that the map is not the territory. The map is a representation of reality. And like I said in previous training sessions, is that what we perceive to be reality is only an interpretation of it. And remember, we can only perceive, so much information before we have to block out and delete and distort and create our own idea of what we see as being real. And so if we understand this, and we understand through the observer effect that by observing particular potential realities creates them and collapses them, and that becomes our reality, then we need to really look at our own mind makeup and say, well, is this something that I've just adopted and believed in, and therefore it's become my reality? Or is it, one of those rules that we can't bend? And, when we're talking about things like gravity and levitation, that's pretty challenging. That's a challenging thing. It's like, yeah, well, if you believe that levitation is possible, then why don't you just levitate, And so to get the mind freed up enough to be able to believe in the possibility of that, we need to give ourselves a space in which we can allow ourselves to play with the idea and dream it into some kind of experience where we can get a sense of what it might be like if that were possible. And if that were possible, and we can have those experiences at least in some kind of dream space, then potentially then we could start to tune into that reality and start to build a neural net towards that. Now, I know it's not as practical as how to make an extra $100,000 in your business, but that's a potential too, right? And if anyone who hasn't made $100,000 in their business yet knows, or who has and who didn't before, knows the transition it takes to get there and how much you need to change in your beliefs about money and finance and worthiness and value and all that stuff, till finally you can get that brain working in the way that you want it to, so that you can accept the possibility that is out there and the potential, and actually embody it and ground it and anchor it into your experience. Excuse me. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be constructing a hyper reality space inside our dream mind, inside the fifth dimensional space. And it's a bit like if you've seen the film Doctor Strange, there was the mirror dimension, And so he would practicing all these spells and all this magic, and what was their name? The master of Shambhala, whatever it was, comes to him and says, now you need a place to practice. We won't be distracted, and where you can just totally focus. So this is going to be like a test lab inside your mind that we're going to create. So you can play with all these new abilities. You can test out your different beliefs that you want to change. You can test out different values, different perceptions, and you can start to put yourself into those potential futures or parallel timelines, and you can decide if that's what you really want, for one. And if it is, then you can start to train your mind, body, and energy into that frequency. And then as you're doing that, what you'll notice in your third dimensional space when you're not doing this is that you'll start to get little cues in the environment to show you whether you're on track or not. And so if we're looking at this from a lucid dream perspective, we're going to create a set and setting in which the dream takes place. You're going to create the story for yourself of who you are in that dream and what you're going to be doing and what you're going to be capable of. And also we're going to start to create dream objects within the dream. And some are going to be out there, and others are going to be really simple. And hopefully the really simple ones that take root in the mind first will start to begin to show up in your third dimensional waking reality, and it'll give you confirmation and reinforcement that what you're doing is working. And the other thing is, we're going to start to interact with dream characters inside the dream to start to access your subconscious mind and unlock and activate that knowledge that's already within you that maybe you just haven't tapped yet. Okay, you still with me? And so this way you can create a dialogue with the subconscious mirrors of yourself and get information and communicate and sort out abstract thoughts and begin to ground them into tangible ideas. All right, so what I'd like you to do at the moment is I'd like you to pull out your notepads, and I would like you to pick a place, and it could be like a beach, it could be mountains, it could be a log cabin, it could be a mansion, it could be a penthouse, it could be a tent. I don't care what it is. It could be a hollowed out volcano, right? It could be another planet somewhere. It can be wherever you want it to be. I want you to remove all limitations, okay? And then I want you to select a place of which you want to make your space, and make sure it's large enough to do whatever it is that you may want to experiment with. Secondly, I'd like you to get a clear image of you in your ideal state of health and fitness. And that could mean you're older, younger. Don't worry about age. You can be any age. You can be any type of physique. And I would like you to choose three abilities that you would like to have if you could have. These would be like superpowers. If your mind was strong enough to override the third dimensional rules. Next, I want you to pick two objects, one real simple object. Okay, so for me, when I was starting this practice, it's something that you can accept really easily. It's not that common, but it's something that you're not going to be doubting and wrestling with. Something really simple. So for me, it was animal totems. If I could see an animal or a representation of an animal, I really liked that, because then I could go look up the meaning of what that animal represented through an animal totem, and I could start to get some information back from my environment. And so that could be a picture, it could be a little an icon, it could be a stuffed toy, it could be the real thing. Okay, that was my choice. But you pick something that's meaningful for you, that is maybe common for everyone else, but you don't see it every day. One of the people I was working with, she had a real hard time doing this, and so she picked a real common bird in her environment, and I'm like, well, that's good, have that as well, but let's pick something a bit obscure. Let's pick a purple dragon. I said, purple dragon, how often do you see purple dragon? It's like, never. And she's like, I love purple and all that. Okay, great. So pick something like that. And now I want you to pick something that's way outside of your realm of acceptance. Something that maybe you're not sure if you could obtain. For guys, this is usually the dream car, all right, or something like that. But you know what I'm saying. And you're not going to invest too much in it, but it's going to be something for you to aim towards. And if and when you get it, great. But by the time you get there, your skill level is going to be so high that you're not going to even care. It's just going to be like, oh, great. Of course, I manifested my dream car, or the car that I was focused on next. Because I've been thinking about it for many, many years. And then, last but not least, you're going to open the space for a dream character to present themselves to you, and to start to give you information, messages, have conversations with. Okay. Now, it's important that you don't put your power into this character. Remember, it's just a reflection of your subconscious. But you want to have some kind of interface with your subconscious. All right. And it could take the form of one person or many people. And it can take the form of anyone at any time, anywhere. So when you've got those things, just come in with the chat and let me know that you're ready to go. And then what I'll do is I will start to prompt you with frames of which you can operate within. I'll just set some borders and boundaries, not to restrict you, but just to give you some edges to work with and around. And don't worry about sticking within the lines. This is not coloring within the lines. This is just is something for you to use and work with, so it's not just so open-ended. You know, you can't hone in on anything. So what I mean by that is, there was an experiment done with kids in a playground, and they built a fort in the center of this big open field, and they thought, we don't want to restrict the kids from playing their games, so we're not going to put a fence up because we don't want to impede their growth. And what they found was, after they went back to look at the kids playing in the park, that most of them were just huddling around the fort, and you know, they were on their phones or not really playing anything or doing anything and just sort of hanging out. And they realized that they needed a boundary, even if it was just an illusory boundary, for them to start to know where an edge was and start to play in and beyond the edge. So they just built a little wall, that you could step over really easily, and around the park about, several meters out. And what they found was when they came back, that the kids were using the boundary as part of the set and setting of the game. And they were going beyond it and coming within it and jumping over it and using it to play with. So that's the idea of the boundaries here. And that's how I want you to look at rules. And the other thing is, one thing I noticed in martial arts training is that when we were given scenarios, like I'm going to give you a scenario tonight to work within and around and beyond, I found that because my mind was a little freer than most in the class, is that it would challenge people when I stepped outside of unwritten rules. Now, I don't mean hitting below the belt and hitting after the whistle type of thing, but what I mean is I would use unorthodox techniques to get the job done, and often I was stopped and said, well, hang on, we're not allowed to do that. The drill is this, and these are the rules. And I said, well, where in the rules does it say you can't do this? And they'd be like, oh, actually, no one said you couldn't do that. And I'm like, that's right. The scenario is this. This is the boundary. In and around the boundary, no one says that you can or can't do this. So we want to use this exercise to see what's outside the mind, the edge of our mind, and what the rules are and what we think they are, but they're not really, and what our beliefs are, and are they really beliefs? Do we really believe in those beliefs, or are we just using them as a boundary and that's preventing us from going beyond them? So I want you to test all this stuff out. And the other thing is, when I begin to challenge you and start to push you further out into the exercise, if you're feeling too uncomfortable with them, don't worry about it, but take note of where that happened, what you were thinking about, what you were feeling, what your energy was doing. And at that point, leave the exercise where it is and just start working with that edge and start to figure out what that means for you, because that's really where the work in this exercise is. It's not about completing, the story of what I'm going to lead you towards. It's not about the destination, remember, it's about the journey, so they say. And so I said this last thing before we get in is I said this quick story with the group this morning, and I should have looked up his name, but the guy who played Lawrence of Arabia, what's his name? If you got it, write it down for me. Let me off the hook, or it's going to keep me up till 3 a.m. or until I can get onto Google. But anyway, so the guy, this actor, was it Peter O'Toole? Is it Peter O'Toole, maybe? Anyway, Lawrence of Arabia, and well-known actor, all these awards, famous, and in his later life ended up just doing theatre because he could do anything he wanted to do. So he did theatre, and on his finale night, his farewell when he retired, he got this standing ovation, not just because it was his last night, but because it was the greatest performance he's ever done. It was like the accumulation of all his skill as an actor, all coming to fruition in this one night, in this massive crescendo. And he goes backstage into into his room, and his assistant comes in and expecting him to be like lying back on the sofa and, you know, gloating about how great his performance was. And instead he's tearing up the room, and he's throwing chairs, and he's breaking glasses, and he's just like in this rage. And he says, "Sir, what is going on? You had this beautiful performance. It's the best performance of your career. Standing ovation. Everyone loves you. Everyone will remember this for the rest of their lives. Why are you so upset?" And he says, "I know it was the greatest performance of my career. The problem is I don't know why it was the greatest performance." And so don't worry about performing great. You know, focus on the how and the why this is working or not working for you. Because with that information, that's going to direct you to the next step. And it's going to put you on your journey and your path to learn your craft and your methodologies, and to become the person that you want to be and to do what you want to do. All right. So we don't need any more copycats. You know, I'm the one and only Brett. So don't be like me, because there's only one of me, and that's a good thing. That's a really good thing. There's only one. And don't try and, you know, mimic all the stuff I'm doing and become an energetic arts clone, because that's not what this is about. This is about finding your style and your stuff. Okay, so without further ado, let's get into it. Blindfolds on. Begin to relax. The music begins. Relax. Breathe and relax. Close your eyes if you haven't done so already. And turn your attention inward. Focusing on your breath. Breathe in to the core of your being. Breathing, feeling, and relaxing just as deeply as you can. Take your time to relax. Allow your body to feel the feelings it needs to feel. To relax deeper. Allow the thoughts and memories and all the distractions of the day to sort themselves out and to be put away. Sense your energy calming down, becoming still, becoming soft, becoming smooth. Just let go. Let your energy flow. And feel the space between spaces. Feel all the time between the moments of time. Rest and relax. Feel supported. Let the field catch you. Stay with it. Keep leaning in. Gently. Calmly. And even more relaxed. Releasing melting, blending into the field. Feel the center of your heart shining, radiating bright, like a sun. Feel its glow spreading into every cell of your body. Into all the space and beyond. Just allow it to expand further. In all directions. Of space and time. Feel now. Feel the feeling emerging from your heart center. Feel the feeling of love. Fulfilling you. And overflowing. Limitless. Endless. Move the energy up now. All the way up. Through the top of your chest. All the way up your neck. And into the center of your head. Moving into the seat of the soul. Into the master gland. The key to infinite worlds. And from here, bring up your space, your set and setting, And allow your mind to construct the environment in just the way that you want it. With all the details, all the nuances, all those personal touches. And now that you've done that, build your body in perfect health. At the perfect age. Just allow your mind to create yourself in the ideal, optimum way. Step into yourself and feel how it feels to have your body in its ideal form. Good. Feel the energy moving and shaping your ideal body. Perfect health. Imagine how it would feel to live like this in this body. And as you breathe energy and life into your body, notice that you begin to feel lighter and lighter, so light that you can begin to float off the ground in this space that you've made for yourself. Feel the weightlessness. Breathe, relax, and enjoy the feeling just as much as you can. Feel free now to move and float and fly all around your environment. However you like. In whatever direction you like. Explore this space now. Good. Now, in this time and space, beyond space and time, bring up those 3 abilities that you wish you could have if only somehow you could activate them now. And dream and play in this space with those abilities, and allow your mind to construct the perfect circumstance for you to access and develop these abilities. Do this now. And just allow yourself to play. Notice how you feel as you dream and play and practice using these new abilities. Does it change the way you think? Does it open up the possibility of what's possible? Can you see new futures become visible that before were outside of your awareness? Notice now a figure off into the distance of your environment, calmly, gently moving towards you. Communicate with this figure, with this being. Does it have anything to tell you? Do you have any questions for it? What answers does it have? How are they familiar? Perhaps they have a message for you. Just pause there for the moment. Know that you can come back at any time and continue your conversation with this being. Move to a space now in your environment where you feel comfortable. And access your creative mind. And just a little out in front of you, probably about arm's length, construct your first object in 3 dimensions. See it in as much detail as you can. Sense its texture and its temperature. And rotate it in every which way you can in order to view it from every possible angle. Become very clear on its nuances, its details, and its eccentricities. Pay attention to its design. Imagine the code that it would take to create that design in the mind. Now just allow it to float there in space. And somewhere in the environment, as you scan the horizon, the edges, notice your other object is already there somewhere. And using the power of your mind, lift it up and draw it toward you into a distance and a space where you can begin to pay more attention to the details of its design. Rotate that object in all directions, becoming aware of all its details and its nuances, its surfaces, its texture and its temperature. Just allow it to be there. Begin to move gently away into another part of your environment. Go back to bringing your attention into the center of your chest, into the center of your heart. feel how good it feels to feel the feelings that you're feeling. To know what you know now that you didn't know before. Embody those feelings. And while your awareness remains in the space, bring your energy back into your body. Back into your mind. Back into your space. Back into this time. Feel the connection between this space and time. And your awareness in the time-space that you've constructed. Pay attention to the connection and the energy flow moving in and out, back and forth. Feel the connection becoming stronger, charging you, changing you in the best possible way. Your own pace. In your own time. And when you're ready now, let go and come all the way back. Into this time. Into this space. Into this energy. Into this body. Into this mind. And into this time. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. And let me know when you're back. Coming back now. Good. How do you feel? How do you think? What did you experience? Make some notes, write some stuff down. Now I'll just open it up to some questions. If you need clarification on anything, want to talk about anything. And just quickly while you do that, I'm just going to give a little heads up, a little shout out to the practitioners here on the practitioners page. As you can see, we've got some in the United States, in Europe, London, Australia, more coming on each week. Now, if you're having any struggles, or if you're needing any support or any sessions, make sure you reach out to these people. This is a new practitioner here, Erin, who does some core energetic attunement, which I recommend if you're having any you're struggling with anything. But you guys can have a look through that later if you need that. Tired, fun, and excited all at the same time. Yeah, cool. So what happened when you were in there? What happened when you were under? Anyone care to share? How did you guys go with the moving through the environment and moving objects in the environment, creating objects, interacting with characters? Do you think that if you went through this more than once, perhaps watch the replay, use this as a tool to train in this area on your own, that you might become more adept at this practice? What did your yeah? So what did your character tell you? Or what did it show you? Was it something you already knew and you just got confirmation, or was it something new that you didn't know that you knew? So part of this, the other thing, guys, is the brain is this beautiful pattern recognizer and answer seeking machine, and it works so quickly once you get out of its way and let it do what it naturally does. And the key to getting out of the way is being relaxed and allowing it to do what it does. It's like a computer. You put in the right commands and it will give you back the information that you're looking for. That's not something we have to worry about. What we should become really skilled at is learning how to construct worthy questions to be able to get the answers that we're looking for. And so constructing questions is a real art form. Okay, so here's another quote that I saw today that I really liked. It says, "Practice the basics as if they were advanced, and that is the key to advancing." How do I construct the questions? Well, that's a good question. I think one of the keys is to break things down. One of the keys to my success in learning rapidly and obtaining the skill level that I have is because I was able to break things down in ways that, well, seemingly, it's the long way. It looks like you're going the long way around about things. But if you take your time and really learn everything you can, especially about the basics, then you start to know what you need to look for. And so I had this little formula called this appropriate movement. To find the appropriate movement to move to where you wanted to go, there were 4 basic questions. Is it, where am I? Where am I going? Who am I? And what's the appropriate movement based on where I am, who I am, and where I want to go? And so what this does is it creates like a frame of which to work within. And if you start using a frame, and not necessarily the ones that you're conditioned with, I mean, they're good to know about, sure. And we're going in and out of frames constantly. Social frames, mental frames. And so when we can identify certain frames, we begin to know what's in them, and we can know what's outside of them, and then we can also know what we don't know within them and what we don't know outside them. And with that information, we can start to reverse engineer what answers we're looking for, and then construct the questions to lead to those answers. And so another way of putting it, another insight that I had, is that when you construct questions in the right way, because remember, it's language programs the mind to some degree, is that rather than give it a command which gives it a limitation, which can constrict the mind from using the creative process to come up with the answers that you are seeking. If you give it a question that is sort of open-ended, then it can start to search for patterns that relate to the answers that you're looking for. And rather than just give you the answer, it can give you new ways of thinking in which to obtain those answers as well. So for example, how relaxed can you become and when you're relaxed, how can you construct, or actually what questions can you ask yourself that will lead you to the understanding of how to construct worthy questions? And so what happens is, at least for me, is that when I know I've got a good question is when I go into a blank spot in my mind. And if I'm relaxed and I stay in that blank spot, then the answer will just show up when the timing is right. Does that make sense? Does that help? Okay. So I think we'll wrap up now, unless there is one last question. Otherwise, we'll leave it there. And just to clarify, can you identify the answer that you're seeking? Because if you construct the question correctly, you'll find that the answer's in the question. And sometimes it's good to spin on those thoughts and see what they do to the mind. So I'll leave it there, guys. Thanks again for coming. Appreciate you tuning in. I'll see you all next week. And remember, the replays are there if you haven't got them already, and also the new session on Sunday. So make sure tune into that one and bring with you your constructed questions. And I'll see you all very soon. Thanks for coming, and good night, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are.